So today we'll be adding and subtracting fractions with non-matching denominators. I know you're waiting for this. Okay, so this week I'm just going to break down what we're going to go through. So first of all, writing equivalent fractions. We did do a video on it. Should appear here. We'll go through that a little bit. Adding and subtracting. So we're just going to do some basic examples there. Then we're going to deal with mixed numbers. Nasty mixed numbers. Then we're going to be borrowing from wholes to subtract. That's when it gets quite complicated. But don't worry too much because I'm here. And then we're going to end with some exploration. Okay, so when you're writing equivalent fractions, we want to make these two match the denominators, so the bottoms of the fraction. That's our first step. So we need to find a denominator that works. Okay, so the way that we do that is we find the lowest common multiple. Now notice it's not the highest common factor. The lowest common multiple, which I often call the LCM. So if you ever see LCM, it's talking about the lowest common multiple. We need to find the lowest common multiple of 2 and 4 in this example. So first of all, we're going to start, there are other ways of doing this, but we're going to first start by writing out our multiples of 2. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and as we know, multiples go on forever. Then we're going to write out our multiples of 4. So we've got 4, then 8, then 12, and again, they go on forever. Multiples go on forever. What we do then is we find where they match. And you can see we're quite lucky. It's quite early on. So it's 4 and 4. So now, because we've already got something written as 3 over 4, we don't need to worry about this one. We only need to worry about this 1 over 2. So this half, we've got to convert into something over 4. So I'm first going to write out 1 over 2, and then I'm going to do an equal sign, and I'm going to make that equal to something over 4. Well, what did we multiply back by to get from 2 to 4? We multiply by 2. Anything that you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top of the fraction in order to make it equivalent. So I'm going to times 1 by 2 as well. So I get 2 over 4. Well, now I've got my two equivalent fractions. I can add them together by adding the numerators. 2 over 4 plus 3 over 4 equals... Notice how the denominator stays the same. Very important. If you don't remember how to add fractions with the same denominator, check out this video here. Okay, so 2 plus 3 is 5. So we get 5 over 4. If we want, we can turn that into a mixed number. So if we think about it this way, there's 5 quarters. That means that there's 1 whole and we've got 1 quarter left over. So we can either have 5 over 4 or 1 and 1 quarter as our answer. Next, let's do some adding and subtracting, right? And just practice this concept a bit. So suppose we've got these two fractions here. We've got 4 over 5 and 2 over 7. We're going to again look at the bottom numbers. So we've got 5 and 7. Now, if I were to write our multiples of 5, got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. And then our multiples of 7, 7, 14, 21, 28, and 35. We see the first place where they both meet is 35. Okay, so 35 needs to go at the bottom of our fraction. So we're going to rewrite this sum with 35s at the bottom. So we've got 35, we've got 35. And then we're going to find equivalent fractions for 4 over 5. how do I get from 5 to 35? Well, I times by 7. So I have to do 4 times 7. 4 times 7 is 28. And we're going to look at the other fraction now. So how do I get from 7 to 35? Well, I've got to times by 5. So that must mean that I times this by 5 too. So 2 times 5 is 10. Therefore, our new fractions are 28 over 35 and 10 over 35. If we add the tops, we get 38 over 35. Or 1 and 3/35. Okay, so that's our first addition. Now we're going to subtract two fractions, which is basically the same process. So we're going to look at these two here. These are a bit easier actually. We've got 8 and we've got 4 at the bottom. So actually, we can just rewrite 3 over 4 as 6 over 8, because 6 over 8 is equivalent to 3 over 4. And this already has 8 in it. So 7 over 8 is already 7 over 8. So it's fine. So we're going to rewrite that. So you've got 7 over 8, subtract 6 over 8. And then again, we're going to subtract the tops. So we get 1. And then the bottom remains the same. And we get 8. Okay. So that's a simple example of an addition and subtraction. Now, mixed numbers. The way I like to deal with this is I like to group the whole numbers together first, because it's a bit easier that way. I'm just going to rewrite this and group the whole numbers together. So I've got 1 plus 2, and then I'm going to do the fraction separately. So 1/3 plus 1/4. We're just going to concentrate on this thing that I've put in the brackets, the two fractions. So we've got 1/4 plus 1/3 plus 1/4. Lowest common multiple of 3 and 4 is 12. If we were to go through our multiples of 3 and our multiples of 4, they'd meet at 12. So I'm just going to rewrite this sum. So 1 plus 2 plus something over 12 and something over 12. So to get from 3 to 12, I times by 4. So I've got to times 1 by 4. And I get 4 over 12. And then to get from 4 to 12, I need to times it 4 by 3. So I need to multiply the top by 3 as well. So I get 3 over 12. 4 plus 3 is 7. So what I'd get is, if I were to group these together, I get 3 plus 7 over 12. Therefore, our answer is 3 and 7/12. That's a nice little addition. Now, subtractions, again, in this case, I can group the wholes together again. So I can do 3, take away 2, and then plus 2 over 3, take away a half. The reason why I can do that is actually because I know that 2/3 is actually bigger than a half. Sometimes if you've got the fraction here that is smaller than the fraction here, you're going to have to borrow, and we'll get onto that in a second. So again, we're going to deal with our fractions. So we've got 3 and 2 here. So what we can do is our lowest common multiple of 3 and 2 is 6. So we're going to rewrite the fraction as something over 6 and something over 6. We need to times 3 by 2 to get to 6. So we've got to times 2 by 2 to get to 4. And then because we've got a half here, we've got to times 2 by 3 to get to 6. And therefore we've got to times 1 by 3 to get to 3 over 6. If we evaluate our whole numbers, 3 take away 2 is 1. And then we got 4 over 6, take away 3 over 6, so we get 1 over 6. Therefore we get 1 and 1/6. this is the most advanced stage. Here we're going to be borrowing from wholes in order to subtract. So first of all, you've got to recognize the situation. If we've got a subtraction, now if we've got a half and we're taking away 3/4, we know that a half is smaller than 3/4. So in order to do this correctly, we're going to have to borrow from our wholes and lend to our fraction here. If we borrow one whole from 2, we get left with 1. And I'm going to send a whole over. And a whole is equal to 2/2. So we get 3/2. Take away. And then we'll keep this one the same. So do you see how we've gone from a half, but now we're dealing with 3/2, which is bigger than 3/4. And that allows us to perform the subtraction. So now we can minus the wholes from each other. So you got 1, take away 1. And then we're going to do our subtraction, which is 3/2, take away 3/4. Our lowest common multiple of 2 and 4 is 4. Therefore, we can rewrite this fraction, or these fractions here, as 6/4 and 3/4. And then let's evaluate each of our brackets here. So 1 take away 1 is 0, plus 6/4 take away 3/4. Again, subtract the tops, you get 3/4. So therefore, our answer is 3/4. Let's explore this idea. Jug A has 3.5 litres of water and jug B has 2.25 litres of water. If we poured the contents of A and B into a bucket, how much water would be in the bucket? So in this case, we've got our basic sum is 3.5 plus 2.25. So it's not too difficult. We're going to do 3 plus 2, group our whole numbers together, plus our fractions. So we've got a half plus a quarter. So 3 plus 2 is 5. And then we've got to rewrite this. And we can see here that our lowest common multiple of, 4 and 2 will be 4. We can rewrite half as 2/4 and then add that to 1/4. And when we add the tops, so the numerators of our fraction, we get 3/4. And then we get 5 plus 3/4. So that would equal 5 3/4 litres. So a short little exploration there, but certainly useful to sort of think about how this question could appear in an exam paper or in a worded context. Thanks for watching. If you found that video useful or maybe even too complicated, then check out some of our other videos over here.